Howdy, y'all. Usually growth is correlated with higher prices, but America's fastest growing city, an alarming trend, has arrived. The rent is dropping and it's dropping fast. I'm here in beautiful Austin, Texas, and I'm going to break down why things are going south in America's southernmost state capital. Cue the intro.
Urban groove, I'm talking about urban groove. When you're learning something new, tune into urban groove. Urban groove, always asking what's the move. We don't do solitude, lock in with urban groove. Time to learn some geography or tap into anthropology. I'm the plug, I got a pick and mix. Yeah, you know I got your fix. Studying the cultures of different cities, spending currency. I'm talking in CDs. Yeah, I'm hot just like I burned a CD. Even your ma and your pa wanna see this. Urban groove, I'm talking about urban groove. When you're learning something new, tune into Urban Groove. Urban Groove. Urban Groove.
First off, the title of the video introduces two bold claims that Austin is America's fastest growing city and that paradoxically rents are dropping. Well, let's prove these claims, and I'll tell y'all why I think this is happening and ultimately whether it's a really bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. Is Austin America's fastest growing city? According to the US Census Bureau, these are the fastest growing metropolitan areas of the US. Before we delve into numbers, let me define a metropolitan area. A metropolitan area is defined by the borough as a core area containing a substantial population nucleus, as well as adjacent communities that have a high degree of economic and social integration with that core. The subunit of the metropolitan area is the county, and thus all metro areas across the US are a collection of counties and county equivalents, which most Americans refer to as a greater area or metro region. As you can see, since 2020, Austin is not in fact the fastest growing metro area of the US, so I lied to you. Austin is currently the 15th. Well, yes, but not really, because as you can see on the list, Austin is 2.5 times the size of any of the metro areas above it. Out of the top 25 biggest metro areas, Austin is by far the fastest growing. They've only with double-digit growth since 2020. Although Orlando is right on the edge at 9.99%. So when talking about what most folks refer to as large cities, Austin is by far the fastest growing. So now that we've established that Austin, with a small caveat of large cities, is the fastest growing large city in America, on to the next claim. Are rents dropping in Austin? According to Redfin, Austin's rents have dropped almost $400 since the peak in August 2023. This is the most over 22 major metropolitan areas analyzed by the company. For comparison, over the same period of time, the median rent across the US was largely unchanged. Now, this is serious news. Hell, Zoran Mamdani just won an election after running a generational campaign, telling folks he's going to freeze the rent. Well, did he get his grubby socialist hands on Austin first?
Wait just one moment. We'll be back with more Urban Groove.
You know, let's see if firsthand testimony corroborates the data. I sent out a survey on my Instagram to collect some data from the general public, and I'm aware, Ms. Tamer, that this is a sample convenience and might not suffice for true statistical analysis. But I don't claim to be a statistician, and a young brother's just trying to check the temperature of the streets and see whether the good folks with my personal IG are hip to what's going on in their city. I only got 29 responses, which doesn't hit the rule of 30, but that just means you have to take it with a silt of salt. Here are the questions I asked and some general trends of the data I gathered. It's your stylish data scientist here. Let's move to here to give you the results of the survey. The questions are: How many years have you lived in Austin? If you lived here for multiple years, has your rent increased or decreased? Any thoughts on why your rent has changed? Did you know that Redfin and other outlets tracking rent prices in the US have stated that median asking rent in Austin have decreased roughly $450 from $1,800 in August 2023 to roughly $1,350 in January of this year? You don't even know the exact stat, but were you aware of the general trend as it pertains to rent in Austin? What are your thoughts on this information, and is it new to you? Knowing which way rents are going often helps with negotiating rent. Many landlords, for example, have disguised a large rent drop in rent through movement specials offering 8 to 10 weeks across the greater Austin area. Here's what the data says. So 62% of the survey have lived here for 3+ years, which means they likely experienced a turnaround in asking rents and should be the most impacted by this supposed drop. 24% had lived here longer than a year, and 14% is barely getting it in. They just been here less than a year. And so while I took their feedback, their thoughts don't really reflect, the time period where this changes occurred. For long-term residents, those living 3+ years, 28% of their rents had decreased, while for short-term residents, 0% of them had seen their rent decrease. On the flip side, 72% of long-term residents were aware that rents were decreasing, while only 1 of the 7 responders, that's like 14%, that had lived here between 1 and 3 years, was aware of said rent decrease. So, if you've been here for a while, you know what's going on, but you're not really seeing the effects of it. Only 24% of them, or 28% of them actually, had said their rent has decreased. So this is a small sample of convenience. You can't really make a broad claim, but that's just some food for thought. And some more data. The most common response for question 3, which I'll remind you is any thoughts on why your rent has changed. A lot of people are moving to Austin area. There's a high population growth. And because of that, rent must be going up. Which is true, I pointed out, fastest growing major city. The second most common response was to keep up with inflation, which is a perspective I didn't really think about until I saw this come up a couple more times. On the flip side, for those whose rents had decreased, their most common response was it decreased due to the increase in housing supply. So they had the ear to the streets, I'm trying to see what the streets are saying, and the streets looks like there's a little bit of something going on between me and the streets. Smooth Tim, your local statistician, out. So that was my alter ego statistical 10. But we've heard from the Austinites, but what's the data saying? What do the experts say? Why is Austin's rent dropping? Well, according to the Texas Tribune and a litany of other sources, Austin is building up and out. On average, builders in Central Texas obtain building permits at a rate of 957 apartments for every 100,000 residents between the years of 2021 and 2023. A Texas Tribune analysis of census data shows. For comparison, I created this table of all of the 10 largest metro areas in the US by population and the number of apartments they've built since 2020 up to 2025, just to reiterate what the Texas Tribune is saying. Here are the results. As you can see, Austin's the 24th largest metro area, but builds more than Boston, Philadelphia, and San Francisco combined. Out of these selected locations, even the most competitive Sunbelt cities, Austin's outbuilt them by a minimum of 30%. Yet, when you check the YouTube streets, it's all doom and gloom for the bad city. It's almost like Austin's tech industry is representative of a bad boob job, where every day a new video opines about Silicon, or should I say Silicon Hills, migrating back to the valley. Just look at this video, 1.8 million views. Silicon Valley moved to Austin, then regretted it. And a lot of this video talks about the drop in rent.
Quang 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 quang. Urban groove.
But not everyone who calls the city home is a tech executive. In fact, I just highlighted earlier in the video the massive population increase. Growth in Austin hasn't skipped a beat, and apartments are sprouting out of the ground like a new strain of ragweed. When these videos say Austin is in decline, they're wholly focused on the needs of homeowners and investors. That's who's centered in the conversation. But with the insane amount of growth, have the tech bros really fled the hills for the valleys? No. It's not over, Austin. You still have the high ground. Like I pointed out in the graph, Austin is growing super duper fast. And while that's slowed, the city hasn't morphed into a southern Detroit. In fact, Austin is a perfect example of what happens when a city prioritizes affordability over property values. Austin's not in decline because you can't be declining when, for all intents and purposes, you're still growing. For those of us who are Gen Z, Zillennials, or just lifelong renters, who actually contribute significantly to the city's enterprising culture, we treat it as a footnote when the next video or article pontificates on the downfall of our city. Austin is actually making large steps to accommodate us more than any other US city. Next time you're scrolling down your feed and you stumble across another video decrying Austin's rent decrease, I hope y'all realize whose interests those videos serve. It's been Urban Groove here, and Statistical Tin, and we're out.
Thanks for watching Urban Groove.
Ha 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 ha.